After 5 years of marriage, I asked Liu Ruyan for a divorce. She paused when signing the contract and then she asked why. I lowered my eyes. My family went bankrupt. For her I had no use value. Moreover, I smelled the smell of men's perfume on her clothes. Such a strong smell. She is obviously a person with mysophobia, and will never let others get close to her body easily. At the beginning I was in love. I always thought about marrying her. I thought that after being together for a long time, I might develop feelings. At the beginning Liu Ruyan also said to me, "Do you think that if I marry you I will fall in love with you?" Now I finally choose to let go. The news of my family's bankruptcy came when I was cooking for Liu Ruyan. My mother's voice was trembling. She choked for a long time before saying, "Kachong, our family is bankrupt." The kitchen knife in my hand seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds and fell down. I opened my lips and said, "Mom, don't be sad, I have money, I can sell my car for money." On the other end of the phone, my mother's voice was choked with sobs. "Your father still owes 70 million yuan in foreign debt." My head was dizzy and swollen. "I'll take care of it first." I've never encountered such a moment. After the phone was hung up, I walked to the balcony and took out a cigarette. My wife cheated and the family was in debt. At this time, I suddenly began to regret why I had become an ignorant and incompetent boy with only love in my mind. It was not until the evening that Liu Ruyan returned home. As soon as he returned home, he started signing the contract as if he didn't see me. He didn't raise his eyes until I stood in front of him. I took a deep breath and said, "Liu Ruyan, let's get a divorce." Liu Ruyan's hand, which was originally holding the contract, finally stopped. He looked at me and sneered. He still looked at me with the same look as a fool. Why did my family go bankrupt? If it went bankrupt, it would no longer be of any use to him. And I smelled the scent of men's perfume on your coat. Such a strong scent. And you are a person with mysophobia. You will not easily let others get close to your body. After I said these words, Liu Ruyan showed a blank expression on her face for the first time. I smiled and handed the divorce agreement to Liu Ruyan. "Just sign it." I asked someone to check the various conditions above. "See if you are satisfied." Liu Ruyan finally moved her wrist and took the divorce agreement. She was extremely beautiful. At the age of 27, her charm remained the same. She was even more mature and attractive than before. She just glanced at it and put the divorce agreement on the table. "Kachong, I think we can face this problem together, instead of leaving each other at this juncture." I smiled, "But Liu Ruyan, you don't love me. Why don't you want to sign the divorce agreement? Being with me now will only cause trouble." My heart couldn't help but beat again at this moment. After all, Liu Ruyan is the person I have loved for 10 years. Could it be that Liu Ruyan's sigh was the response to me? "I don't want to lie to you, but you look a lot like her." Liu Ruyan refused to tell me who she looked a lot like. But the next day, my mother called me with a sly smile in her voice. "Kachong, your father's funds have been filled up now. It was Liu Ruyan who helped. Do you think he has fallen in love with you? We have been together for 7 years. He should have fallen in love with you." My face was pale and my hand holding the phone was shaking because I saw Liu Ruyan. Liu Ruyan was now at the door of his company. He was wearing a black suit and a black hip skirt. Next to him was a handsome man. He smiled sunny and wore a white shirt. Even his voice seemed to have the taste of sunshine. Liu Ruyan, Da Huang is still there. And Liu Ruyan has a smile on her face that I have never seen before. I know that Da Huang is a small local dog. I always liked to play with Da Huang before, but Liu Ruyan would take Da Huang away every time she saw him. At that time I always asked Liu Ruyan, "I know you don't like me, but can't I play with your dog?" Liu Ruyan frowned, her face full of impatience. "If not," I asked, "why not?" After asking 10 times in a row, Liu Ruyan finally spoke because Da Huang was given to me by a very important person, and Da Huang was well raised. Even when Liu Ruyan was the poorest, she fed Da Huang the best dog food, hung up her mother's phone, and then turned on the camera of her mobile phone. I compared carefully and found that the man next to Liu Ruyan and I looked really alike, whether it was eyebrows or lips. But the man's face was brighter and smarter than mine. He took his hand out of his trouser pocket, put his arm around Liu Ruyan's waist and kissed her lips. Liu Ruyan's face gradually turned red, like a little girl who had just fallen in love. I, who had always been obsessed with love, finally figured it out. Turns out that I was just a stand-in. No wonder when I asked for money and wanted to marry Liu Ruyan, he was obviously disgusted and even said vicious words to me, but he still agreed. At that time, there was actually another sponsor who offered a higher price and wanted to be with Liu Ruyan, but Liu Ruyan refused. I smiled and said to Liu Ruyan, "Don't regret it. I only have so much money, but that sponsor has more." Liu Ruyan frowned and said, "I'm not a prostitute." At that time, he stared at my face. I thought it was because I looked more handsome than that sponsor, but it turned out to be just because I looked a lot like his white moonlight. I don't know how I got home. It was like I had lost my soul. I still had to pay back Liu Ruyan's money. He had to pay back the money my father owed outside. I had lived for 25 years and had never worried about money, but at this moment I began to worry about money. I thought about it for a long time, and finally began to put away all my original watches and everything. I sold some valuable things and got more than 1 million yuan in exchange. I put all the money on a card and put away all the things about me in the house. I'd better not stay here these days. My mother once said that although I'm not very smart, I have one advantage, that is, I know when to deal with things. If Liu Ruyan wants to come back here with her white moonlight, I will of course take the initiative to make room for them. But when I packed up my things and just went out, I ran into Liu Ruyan. Not only her, but also the man who kissed her face in the daytime. The man smiled. Hello, my name is Ji Wooly. Ji Wooly remembered that I had seen this name before. He appeared on the Kongming lantern that Liu Ruyan and I released that year. At that time I was stunned and looked at the name that Liu Ruyan wrote word by word. Ji Wooly was happy every day. I asked who Ji Wooly was. That day, under the sky full of Kongming lanterns as the background, Liu Ruyan's voice was bitter. A touching moment in my life. A very important person. I did not ask who the important person is. After all, the past is the past. Liu Ruyan is now with me. That day, after he released the Kongming lantern, he took the initiative to kiss me. And now I am standing there like embarrassed clown, pulling up my lips awkwardly. My name is Chong. Liu Ruyan saw my packed luggage. She frowned and asked, so late, where are you going? I blinked, trying not to embarrass myself. I am going to a hotel outside. It is really useless. In front of the cheating wife, in front of the mistress, I did nothing. Liu Ruyan pulled the suitcase from my hand. What are you doing in the hotel outside? I shrugged. You cheated. I made room for you so as not to be upset. Liu Ruyan's expression froze for a second, and then said sorry to myasthenia. I will talk to him alone in the room. Liu Ruyan's face was a little indifferent. He already has a child. There will be nothing between him and me. The expression on his face was a little lonely. There was nothing before. There won't be any more in the future. I raised my hand and slapped Liu Ruyan on the face. Get out of here. It was so disgusting. That night I moved to the hotel. Even though Liu Ruyan talked for a long time, I didn't look back. Finally, she said with a cold face, go away, don't beg me to pay attention to you later. I scolded her. Liu Ruyan has a very cold temper. Every time she gets angry, I beg her to pay attention to me. Once I was with my friends and didn't go home for the whole day. Liu Ruyan got very angry. In fact, when she got angry, she just ignored me. I coaxed her for a week until later. Liu Ruyan finally had a good face towards me. After that, I never dared to go out and play all day. People in the circle joked, why are you controlled by your wife? I shrugged and showed a helpless smile. He controls me, which means he loves me. I sneered and said, don't worry, I won't look for you. As I said that, I handed the card in my hand to him. I will return the 70 million to you. There is now 1.7 million in this card. The expression on Liu Ruyan's face turned livid for the first time. You mentioned money to me and I nodded. Yes, if we don't talk about money now, when can we talk about it? By the way, I looked at Liu Ruyan and said, let's go and get a divorce in a few days. I'm really serious. As soon as I finished speaking, Liu Ruyan's expression changed. She stood there, her breath unstable. I didn't look at her more about divorce but just left. For the next few days I stayed in the hotel, and the memories of the past engulfed me like a tide. When I proposed a divorce, I was just hot-headed for a moment. Now when I think about it, my heart hurts like a knife. I have liked Liu Ruyan for so long, and my heart bleeds when I say the word divorce. But no matter what, life must go on. I submitted several resumes and was finally noticed by a company, and asked me to do an internship. A few days later, when I was working part-time in a jewelry store, I met Liu Ruyan again. He was with Ji Wooly and the two were intimate. They looked like a talented man and a beautiful woman. Liu Ruyan, he also saw me. The people around him started to make a noise. Hey big brother, what a coincidence to run into you here. Ji Wooly showed a hearty smile. It's Chong, right? I saw you at your wedding 5 years ago. Although you didn't see me, I had already remembered your appearance. It turned out that Ji Wooly had left a mark in my life 5 years ago. This time Liu Ruyan was not like last time. She had a cold face. First, she got angry at the little sister who called me big brother, saying, don't call her big brother. Liu Ruyan has a strong self-esteem. After I said that last time, she also held a grudge this time. But the manager was urging me again. Chong, the guest wants to try a watch, right? Don't you understand the ways of the world? Why don't you take the guest to try a watch? I bit my lip and asked, do you want to try a watch? Liu Ruyan has always been accurate in her feelings. Even if she gets angry, she will not do anything that crosses the bottom line. But this time he said, then please trouble Mr. He to let Wooly try the watch. I will buy it no matter how expensive it is. Ji Wooly showed surprise on his face. I nodded and then took Ji Wooly to choose a watch. Ji Wooly chose for a long time and deliberately made things difficult for me for a long time. Finally, he chose a couple's watch. He put on the men's watch and showed a proud smile. It suits me very well. He turned around and said, Ruyan, you should try the watch too. It suits you very well. I put the watch on Liu Ruyan and my stomach churned. I raised my eyes and the total was 87,000. Would you like to pay by card or Alipay? After Liu Ruyan swiped the card, I looked at Liu Ruyan and said, by the way, Liu Ruyan, I took off the watch on my wrist. I'll give you the watch back. Liu Ruyan's face turned pale, and even the sisters who had been making a fuss were silent. Finally, Liu Ruyan spoke. There was no reason to take back the things I gave her. I nodded and threw the watch into the trash can. Goodbye, I won't send you off. Liu Ruyan's face froze, and she said to the people around her to leave. After Liu Ruyan left the store, I ran to the bathroom and started vomiting. When there was nothing in my stomach, I looked up. The mirror in the bathroom reflected my miserable appearance and red eyes. Liu Ruyan was not worth my tears. After coming out of the bathroom, the manager said to me, this time it was a big order, but Chong, are you okay? You look very ugly now. I rubbed my eyes and smiled, it's okay. The past 5 years today when Liu Ruyan brought Ji Wooly to buy a watch became a complete joke. I threw away all the things related to Liu Ruyan. When I cleaned up each thing, it was like cleaning up the memories of the past. After Liu Ruyan left with Ji Li that day, she called me again. She seemed to regret it. There was a smell of alcohol in her voice, and she seemed not sober. Kuchong, I bought a watch for Jiwuli that day just to irritate you. You went too far, so I wanted to teach you a lesson. I didn't want to buy it for him, but you kept provoking me. He said drunkenly, just now I couldn't help it and drank a bottle of white wine. My stomach would hurt after drinking. When I saw the medicine you prepared for me, I thought of you. Liu Ruyan has stomach problems but never takes medicine. I bought a lot of stomach medicine and put it in every corner of the living room to ensure that he can get the medicine at any time. When I was preparing, Liu Ruyan was still laughing at me. Can you not act like an old woman? And now, he called me again under the pretext of medicine. I lowered my eyes and said, Liu Ruyan, you only make me feel sick. I hung up the phone and burned the last postcard. I took a deep breath and said it was time to move on. I used to be stubborn and I would only be with someone once I was sure of him. But when a heart is broken, it hurts and I don't want to feel pain for Liu Ruyan anymore. I happened to have time on Sunday, so I simply called Liu Ruyan and asked her to go get the divorce certificate today. However, there was no sound on the other end of the phone. Just when I thought there was a problem with my network, a voice came from the other end of the phone. Liu Ruyan's voice was very muffled. Get the divorce certificate. You were just mad at me for a moment. I laughed at my anger. You make me feel sick. Anyway, there are many ways to divorce. I don't mind meeting you in court. After I finished speaking, the voice on the other end of the phone disappeared completely. I looked at my phone and found that Liu Ruyan hung up the phone. For the next period of time, I didn't care about Liu Ruyan anymore. In my heart, Liu Ruyan and I are over. Even if I lick her again, I don't want to go back. This day, my brother Ito Makoto took me to a banquet. I counted and it seemed that I hadn't attended the banquet with him for a long time. It happened that today was also a rest day. I met many acquaintances at the banquet. The news that Liu Ruyan had myasthenia gravis appeared was known to people in this circle soon. Everyone looked at me with more or less sympathy. I drank a sip of wine in depression. What do their eyes mean when they looked at me? Ito Makoto put his arm around my neck. The fact that I was pursuing Liu Ruyan is known to everyone. You finally got married, but now Liu Ruyan is cheating on you. Of course they will sympathize with you. I lowered my eyes and smiled bitterly. When I was pursuing Liu Ruyan, many people in the circle knew about it. I sent Liu Ruyan the meal I cooked myself, but Liu Ruyan thought it was unpalatable, so I went to find someone else to learn. I pursued Liu Ruyan so fiercely and recklessly. Now that I am separated from Liu Ruyan, all I get are pity looks. At this moment Ito Makoto was stunned. Liu Ruyan was here. I didn't expect Liu Ruyan to come to this banquet. Liu Ruyan never liked to attend banquets. In fact, she always frowned when I attended them. Why did I always go to banquets? At that time, in order to take care of Liu Ruyan's sense of security, I seldom attended banquets with Ito Makoto. But now that I think about it, how much truth and how much falsehood are in Liu Ruyan's words. She just came in wearing a white long skirt, and there was a circle of people around her. She didn't even look at them. I don't know what to say, but I do know that she is just an ordinary woman with a simple past, and she is not ashamed to say that she is just an ordinary woman with a simple past, and she is not ashamed to say that she is just an ordinary woman with a simple past, and she is not ashamed to say that she is just an ordinary woman with a simple past, and she is not ashamed to say that she is just an ordinary woman with a simple past, and she is not ashamed to say that she is just an ordinary woman with a simple past, and she is not ashamed to say that the mouth was filled with anger. Ito Makoto poked me and whispered, Hee-chong, do you know why so many famous leaders in the industry are coming to this banquet? I put down the cup and was instantly attracted by curiosity. As the woman at the door came in, I heard Ito Makoto's voice, because this banquet was for the most famous bigwigs in the circle. Shin Yue landed with Ito Makoto's voice, and I saw the woman at the door clearly. When Shin Yue raised his eyes, he also saw me. His pair of peach blossom eyes immediately stared at me tightly. This look was infinitely more aggressive than it was 5 years ago, and there were countless thoughts that I could hardly understand. Then, he walked quickly to my front, his voice as pleasant as a violin. Long time no see. Ito Makoto almost fainted. What Hee-chong, you know Shin Yue, how to say it. Shin Yue and I are childhood sweethearts, and even at the beginning, because of the good relationship between the two families, I also arranged a baby marriage with Shin Yue. Shin Yue has always been by my side, with the image of the big sister next door protected me, but when I was in college I met Liu Ruyan. Compared with Shin Yue, I preferred someone as cold as Liu Ruyan, so I made a fuss and cancelled my engagement with Shin Yue. People around me advised me not to cancel the engagement, but Shin Yue said nothing. Instead, she went to the house with me and said, Hee-chong, your happiness is the most important. It is your right to like whoever you want. I can't let you be trapped by my side. With the help of Shin Yue, the process of canceling the engagement was difficult, but it was still successfully cancelled. The moment I walked out of the house, Shin Yue's voice was pleading, Hee-chong, if you are not happy, can you look at me? I will always be behind you. I frowned at that time. Yue, I like Liu Ruyan, you should like someone else. After canceling the engagement, I only heard that Shin Yue was going to develop abroad, and on the day of my wedding, Shin Yue never showed up. He had been abroad for 5 years and now he is finally back. I stood up. Long time no see. Shin Yue is more mature than 5 years ago. Her eyes seem to contain spring water, more stunning than 5 years ago. I once smiled and said to Shin Yue, has anyone told you that your eyes are beautiful? At that time, Shin Yue shook her head and said no. Later I asked people around me. They all said that they were as gentle as water. You mean when they looked at you? Shin Yue's eyes were like ice cubes when she looked at people usually, pulling herself out of the memories. I asked you if you came back this time because of your career development abroad. Have you matured? Shin Yue looked at me with a paranoia in her eyes that I had never seen before. Yes and no, she blinked. Hee-chong, what if I said I came back this time to steal someone's girlfriend? Shin Yue's words were so straightforward that I was caught off guard. After leaving the banquet, the eyes of people around me had changed. After all, Shin Yue was more dazzling than Liu Ruyan. It turned out that there was Shin Yue behind Hee-chong. By the way, Hee-chong seemed to be with Shin Yue, also had a childhood engagement, but it was cancelled at the beginning. Shin Yue ignored those words and looked at me. I'll take you there. I was about to refuse, but was interrupted by Ito Makoto's words. That's great, Shin Yue. I'll trouble you to take care of our old he. Shin Yue smiled and said, then please get in the car. I had no choice but to get in Shin Yue's car. Shin Yue fastened my seatbelt for me. I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional, but he was very close to me when he fastened the seatbelt for me. So close that I could smell his fragrance, and our breaths were entangled. I tilted my head slightly, but unfortunately, my lips hit Shin Yue's forehead. I widened my eyes and heard Shin Yue's muffled laughter. Hee-chong, I just want to fasten your seatbelt. My face immediately turned red. Compared with 5 years ago, Shin Yue was more aggressive. Shin Yue started driving quickly and the engine started, but suddenly my cell phone rang. It was Liu Ruyan's call. I answered the call and only heard Liu Ruyan's rough breathing on the other end of the phone. She seemed to be angry. Liu Ruyan's voice seemed to be mixed with ice. Hee-chong, who are you with now? She spoke word by word, with even the tip of her tongue trembling. I frowned. Who am I with now? What does it have to do with you? Liu Ruyan's voice continued to come. When you were kissing just now, I was near your car. I raised my eyes and really saw Liu Ruyan not far from Shin Yue's car. Her white long skirt was very conspicuous. I hung up the phone directly. There was Shin Yue's cheerful voice in the car. I didn't expect that the scene just now would bring her into contact with it. She wouldn't blame me, would she? I rubbed my eyebrows. She had no right to control it. After getting off the car, Shin Yue unbuckled my seatbelt, and then stared at me. She nodded and said, see you tomorrow. I didn't expect that there would be one more person at the door of my rental house. It was Liu Ruyan. Liu Ruyan stared at me with bloodshot eyes. Hee-chong, what are you? She meant that Liu Ruyan like this was unfamiliar. In the past, Liu Ruyan never showed such an out-of-control expression. She said, there is no one in the world who is worth her losing control, and now his eyes are red. Hee-chong, give me an explanation. I have a blank expression. Liu Ruyan, we are over now. No matter what I do next, it has nothing to do with you. By the way, if it must be related to you, it is a matter of money. I remembered one thing yesterday, the villa my father bought for us before. The market value is now 70 million, so Liu Ruyan, if you sell the villa, it is actually not a loss as soon. As I finished speaking, Liu Ruyan roared, if you don't sell it. She stared at me. Hee-chong, many beautiful things happened in that villa before. Her eyes were red. We lived in that villa together for 3 years. Liu Ruyan and I have been living in that villa since we got married for 3 years. There we used to plant flowers and trees together, feed whales together. There Liu Ruyan once kissed me and said that she would always be with me. Indeed, that villa carries we have too many memories. But I lowered my eyes and showed a sarcastic smile. Mr. Liu, don't be like this. Your white moonlight must be waiting for you at home. Go back. Liu Ruyan's face finally showed a look of regret. Hee-chong, she and I have nothing. I can pretend that nothing happened about today. As long as you are willing to go back with me. Liu Ruyan is really cheap. When I was with her and tried my best to please her, she looked down on me and even used me as a substitute. Now when I want to leave her, she regrets it. Get out. I saw Liu Ruyan at the door of my house. He should have been sitting in front of my house all night. When he saw me, he stood up directly. But because of lack of strength, he fell to the ground. Coincidentally, there was begging in his voice. But I just said, please make way. I have to go out. By the way, when I come back, if I see you still sitting at the door of my house, I will call the security. I didn't see the lonely expression on Liu Ruyan's face. I left directly. I drove on and finished my work for the day. It was already evening. I didn't expect Shin Yue to be waiting for me downstairs in the office building. She smiled when she saw me, and then stuffed a bouquet of flowers in my arms. It was Ito Makoto who told me that you work here. The flowers in my arms were lilies, which exuded a rich fragrance. When I was sitting in the car, I thought of yesterday's scene and couldn't help but blushing. When I went back, Liu Ruyan still stubbornly sat in front of my house. I held the lilies, and the smile on my face had not faded. When I saw him, my face froze. Liu Ruyan smiled bitterly. Did he send you back? I frowned impatiently, took out my mobile phone and called the security guard directly. Liu Ruyan looked very fragile under the light. Kachong, you were not like this before. As he said this, he shed tears. This was the first time I saw Liu Ruyan cry. He was like a child. When he cried, he completely lost his image. Hee-chong, are you going to abandon me? I ignored him. In his eyes, Liu Ruyan is no different from a lunatic now. Liu Ruyan was finally dragged away by the security guard. He was so proud, and it was the first time that a person had a decadent expression on his face. A month passed like this. Shin Yue always drove to pick me up on my workdays. I felt that my heart seemed to have gradually made room for a soft spot. Liu Ruyan did not appear in my sight during this month, and it was quiet. Until one night when Shin Yue and I were eating hot pot together, I received a call from Liu Ruyan's sister. The voice on the other end of the phone was very peaceful and quiet. Liu Ruyan's sister's voice came. Brother, did you have a fight with Liu Ruyan? Liu Ruyan is crying now. When I arrived at her house, she was lying on the ground alone, smelling of alcohol. When she saw me, she was stunned, then hugged me and cried. She called your name, and it seemed that there was blood on her hands, and she was holding a diary in her arms. I said let me see it, but he refused to let her. Oh brother, do you want to come and see Liu Ruyan? I remembered the diary. I wrote a very thick diary. It contains information about Liu Ruyan and I over the past 5 years. They are all small things such as what Liu Ruyan likes to eat and what she cannot eat. I observed her carefully to see when she ate an extra bite of food at the dinner table, and when she frowned when eating a certain dish. I remembered all of them. In that diary I wrote a lot of sweet things about Liu Ruyan and I, and occasionally drew some illustrations. When Liu Ruyan saw them, she laughed at him and said he was so childish. When I loved him in the past, I was willing to. I don't know when it started, but the sweet things in the diary became less and less, and finally I could no longer find any sweet things in real life. On the other end of the phone, the voices of Liu Ruyan's sister continued to come. Brother, come and see Liu Ruyan. At this moment Shin Yue spoke. He-chong, do you want to eat tripe? Shin Yue's voice was gentle. Then came the sound of a wine bottle breaking from the other end of the phone, and then came Liu Ruyan's voice. He is by your side with anger. It's 11 o'clock in the evening, and you are still together, He-chong. Don't tell me you live together. Shan Yue raised her eyebrows. He-chong is so fierce, with a lingering and somewhat provocative voice. Then I heard the sound of something being thrown from the other end of the phone. Liu Ruyan was going crazy on the phone. You are not allowed to touch her, I sighed. Liu Ruyan, I don't want to receive your call again unless you take the initiative to find me and ask me for a divorce certificate. By the way, if it really doesn't work, I can also file for divorce. After hanging up the phone, I looked at Shin Yue. Shin Yue had an innocent expression. Do you want to eat tripe? I nodded. After eating hot pot, it was already 12 o'clock in the middle of the night. Shin Yue and I talked a lot about the past. Shin Yue lay on the sofa. The sofa in this house is very large. It can accommodate a 1.85 meter tall man to sleep. I turned off the lights and left. When I got to her, my wrist was grabbed. Shin Yue's eyes were sparkling. He-chong, you haven't said no to me yet, so can I think I still have a chance? Shin Yue's eyes were like the water in a deep pool. For many years, he looked at me with the same eyes, and then accompanied me through my years. I nodded. There should be no shadow of Liu Ruyan in my future years. Shin Yue couldn't help it and hugged me. Her heartbeat was very fast. I realized later that my neck was cold. Shin Yue actually cried, and her tears slid across my shoulders. I said, Shin Yue, don't cry. Shin Yue just buried her head in my shoulders. After a long time, she said in a muffled voice that I won't let go this time. There was paranoia in her voice. This time you gave me a chance. Don't think I will let go on my own initiative. I let go once 5 years ago and you were not happy. I regretted it so much that my intestines turned green. I don't know who kissed whose lips first, but anyway, Shin Yue finally she stopped crying. The next day I saw Liu Ruyan at the door of my house again. However, she looked much more haggard than before after only a month's absence. Unlike her previous appearance, Liu Ruyan used to be carefully dressed up, but now she reeked of alcohol. She was sitting at the door of my house, which was full of wine bottles. When she saw me in the corner, a look of despair finally appeared on her face. The shoes at the door are Shin Yue's, right? She slept at your house yesterday. I didn't say anything, but Shin Yue came out of the house with a satisfied look on her face. When she saw me, she whispered, He-chong, I'll buy you porridge. I remember that you used to like Zhang's porridge the most. As if she had just discovered it, Shin Yue looked at Liu Ruyan sitting on the ground and was surprised and said, Isn't this Mr. Liu? You couldn't have been sitting on the ground all night. Liu Ruyan was pale and lowered her eyes. The air seemed to be blocked at this moment. It was so quiet that you could hear the sound of a needle falling to the ground. After a long time, I raised my eyes and said, He-chong, you obviously loved me so much before, but now you just let me go. How can I live like this? When he said this, his face was full of tears. He-chong, how could you let me go like this? I took a deep breath and said, Liu Ruyan, don't pretend to be affectionate. You were the one who cheated on me first. There's no point in looking for me now. By the way, you'd better get the divorce certificate in these few days, otherwise we'll meet in court. A few days later, Liu Ruyan went to get the divorce certificate with me. After walking out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, she seemed to have all her strength drained out and sat on the ground dejectedly. I still remember when Liu Ruyan and I went to get the marriage certificate. At that time I smiled and said that we would be together for the rest of our lives. Liu Ruyan said coldly, Who knows what will happen next? There are not many people who can be together for a lifetime. I curled my lips and said he was a killjoy. But when taking the photo, Liu Ruyan couldn't help but smile. The smile was very shallow, but it was still captured by the camera. Now I was holding the divorce certificate in my hand, and beside me was Shen Yue who had been waiting for a long time. When Shen Yue saw the divorce certificate in my hand, the corners of her mouth curled up and said, Let's go. From behind me came Liu Ruyan's voice. He-chong. I turned around and saw her red eyes. Will you think of me in the future? I said indifferently. No, people like you are not worthy of my memories because they are too disgusting. Next to me was Shen Yue's voice. Liu Ruyan is so shameless, and she said such disgusting words unlike me. I couldn't help but smile. You're the best person to cooperate with him. A year later, Shin Yue and I got married. I gave Shin Yue the most grand wedding. There were many perfumes I liked at the wedding and Lily. Many people came to the wedding today, all of whom were people in the circle, but I also saw Liu Ruyan. Liu Ruyan came uninvited. When Shen Yue saw him, she frowned. What was he doing here? I frowned. My ex-wife was really disgusting at the wedding. I walked up to Liu Ruyan. If I remember correctly, there didn't seem to be any invitations to this wedding. Please invite Mr. Liu. I will be frank with you. A look of disappointment appeared on Liu Ruyan's face. Can't I come to see you? I can't smile and say each word clearly because it makes me feel sick. Shen Yue asked the security guard to kick Liu Ruyan out. Before leaving, Liu Ruyan was pale, as if all her soul had been sucked out. Shen Yue said disdainfully, Why is he pretending? Hasn't he been with Ji Wuli this year? The fact is that Liu Ruyan and Ji Wuli have been together this year. I only heard that Ji Wuli used some not-so-bright means to get Liu Ruyan and him together. He exposed Liu Ruyan on the internet saying how good Liu Ruyan was to him before and how much she liked him, but Liu Ruyan disliked him just because of the baby she took care of. This incident successfully became popular on the internet, but netizens also dug out his identity as a mistress. Liu Ruyan followed Ji Wuli under pressure from public opinion. However, Liu Ruyan didn't even have a wedding with Ji Wuli. This is not very. Guangming's memes were laughed at in the circle. Ji Wuli and Liu Ruyan, both of them had bad reputations. No one in the circle looked up to Ji Wuli and Liu Ruyan. After all, Liu Ruyan had been drinking every day this year, and the company was not doing well. Coupled with the public opinion, Liu Ruyan's company also saw a stock decline. No, these things have nothing to do with me. I held Shen Yue's hand, and Shen Yue's hand was very soft. Shen Yue, in the future we will be together forever. Shen Yue lowered her eyes, of course. The way he looked at me had never changed, just like before. After Chang's wedding that day, Liu Ruyan started to get drunk every day, drinking much more heavily than before. People around him advised him not to drink so much. After all, drinking too much is harmful to the body. He frowned, always feeling that if he didn't drink so much, his heart would be empty. Besides, the face he faced after returning, although he looked very similar to Chang. Abu da ke, 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 我是你的小豆瓣菜. Liu Ruyan would miss Chang very much every time the comparison ended. In fact, Liu Ruyan knew Chang in a bar. Chang was raised to be very rebellious by his family. He was dressed in branded clothes and laughed heartily while sitting on the sofa. He was very handsome. Especially under the scent of brandy that day, he was even more handsome and captivating. Liu Ruyan knew that Chang was uneducated and an idiot in the circle, but upon closer inspection, he seemed to be very similar to his unattainable white moonlight. Liu Ruyan's heart suddenly jumped. He was very smart and realistic. His white moonlight had already gone abroad and had a new marriage abroad. He could no longer have her, so he deliberately appeared with his friends that day to catch her eye. He was indeed an idiot. She was immediately attracted by his appearance, and then at the instigation of a group of friends she blushed. I asked him for his contact information. My name is Chang. Can I add you as my friend? Amid the laughter around us he took out his cell phone and said, I don't add friends easily. Later, every step Chang took was within his expectations. Chang was clumsy. Chang was really stupid. He thought so when he looked at Chang that day and wanted to make him a birthday cake, but he still said, let me help you. What he made was even worse than what Chang made. I don't know what happened, but the birthday cake that day completely turned into a contest of friendship for him. In the end he made a beautiful birthday cake. He lowered his eyes to look at the cake he made. It was ugly and didn't even have a shape. It was like a birthday cake made by a witch in a fairy tale. But Chang still said, Ruyan, you did a good job. At that time his heart seemed to be rubbed hard by someone, with a slight sourness. No one had ever said this to him before. It was at that moment when he looked at Chang, his heart was beating for him. It's just that he didn't know that he had liked Ji Wooly, and even was with Chang mostly because Chang looked like Ji Wooly. The reason was that after Ji Wooly came back, he knew that Ji Wooly was divorced but he didn't think about being with Ji Wooly. The young Bai Yueguang was important, but it seemed not as good as the person at home. He admitted that after Ji Wooly came back he was lucky in his heart. He and Ji Wooly got closer, but the closer they got, the more he found that he didn't know when the person he liked had become Chang. So when Chang first proposed divorce, he was a little panicked, but he couldn't refuse. The white moonlight of Ji Wooly was unattainable before, hanging high in the sky, but after returning to China, it lowered its posture and began to become touchable. He wanted the white moonlight and the cinnabar mole at the same time too much. He was so realistic and greedy, so it led to an irreversible ending later. The end.